want to see something cool? That's fun and silly sounding, right? All of those moves that were being made by all of the parameters there were automated. And that is the topic for today, automation. You might have noticed that I wasn't clicking on anything, and you'll just have to trust me that I wasn't moving any controls or faders on a MIDI control surface or anything like that. This is all pre-written, and the software makes the changes for me over time. One more look because I like the way the shapes are. I suggest not doing specifically that. And in fact, I'm going to get rid of these two plugins so that we can do a demo that actually makes sense. So, what is automation? That is our topic today, and it really means making parameters change over time automatically. It doesn't have to be anywhere near as crazy as what I just did. You can just automate the volume of an instrument fading in or out, or make something get louder for a chorus and quieter for a verse, or like pan to one side for a section and pan to the other side for a different section. Automation is really important for making your mix come alive. So, yeah, the video is about how to do it in Pro Tools. However, 99% of this stuff is true for every DAW. So if you're a Logic user or Studio One or Ableton or any of the others, hopefully you will find this applicable. So let's get right to it. We're going to look at three things. The first is how to manually draw in automation curves. The second is how to enable automation for different plugin parameters, because that's not automatic in Pro Tools unless you change a setting that I'm going to show you. And the last is how to record automation in real time and what the different modes are for doing that you might use. All right, so let's look at the first bit, volume. First thing you got to do is bring up your automation lane, which is just a visual display. So the easy way to do that is to select the track that you want to see automation on and just press the minus key. Boom, there's our volume automation lane. The other way to get there, and you can get to any type of automation with this, is here in the track header. If you click here where it says waveform, you can select volume. You can also select pan or your different plugin automation things that you have enabled. For now, we're just going to select volume, and again, that's the same as pressing the minus key. We might as well just look at it now if you want to be able to see your waveform but also do automation. This little icon at the bottom left of the track header says show hide automation lanes. So if you click that, it opens a second lane down here, and you can even add more if you click this little plus sign. So like here, let's put pan there, and let's put, I don't know, reverb send one level here. And this is how you could automate multiple things and see them all changing together, because you can only have one type of automation per lane. Anyway, let's just do volume to make it clear what's going on. And I'm, for the demo, gonna do it so you can see the lane and the waveform. I usually do it by pressing minus, and that's that. Okay, so there are two ways to draw automation by hand. If you're using the MultiTool here, which is the tool I usually use, the easy way to do it is to hold the command key and see how, that's the control key on a PC, and see how the cursor turns into a little hand with a plus sign on it. That means add a node. These little white dots I just drew are called nodes. And once you have a few of them, you can let go of the command key so you're not adding any more. You can just click and drag. And That's going to be a little slow. Let's bring it over here. I'm in slip mode right now, so I can draw freely. If I was in grid mode, I would only be able to put these nodes on the grid. But let's see what happens now if I pull up our track fader by clicking on this little icon next to the output, and we just hit play. Let's bring it back up to a reasonable volume at the end. That makes sense, right? That's pretty straightforward. I'm going to undo all of that. Command Z is undo. And one thing you want to note when you're doing it this way is, let's say we want the volume to go up right here-ish. It's good if you, so let's say we want it to start getting louder here and reach its max volume here. If you just do this, everything in the track after it is louder. So you want to make sure you put one more node afterward to do this kind of thing. You can also put, two more nodes afterward if you want it to go up like that. It takes a little time to get used to what works and what doesn't for you. There's one other thing you can do with the MultiTool that is extremely useful, and that is to select a section of audio like this. And then if you put the cursor above the automation line, so it turns into that little bracket, if you click and drag straight up and down, you can do a whole section of song or audio or whatever is selected. So that might be real useful if, for instance, let's switch this to panning. We wanted this bit to be on the left and this bit to be on the right. Well, we could pan this left, and we could, let's put it here, pan this all right. And now you'll see when I play across this middle section, the panning knob here is going to jump from left to right. Let's get a little more time on that. You will now hear my dog walking around behind us. All right, let's delete that because I like to be showing everything from a clean state. The other way to click and draw in automation by hand is to use the pencil tool, which we haven't looked at yet. That is right here to the right of your right edge of your tool selector up top. And if you click on it, it should just default to normal pencil mode, freehand. There are some other modes that you can pick by clicking and holding on it. Freehand is just click and draw, like Microsoft Paint or something. God, the people watching this probably don't know what Microsoft Paint is. I am old. One thing I haven't totally figured out is how to play back from right where you want when you're in the pencil tool, so I always switch it back to the MultiTool for playback. Oh, that's doing pan, not volume. Let's switch that to volume. Good morning, girl. Her collar is so loud. All right, put it back to volume, do some freehand stuff, pencil tool. See, I never really use this, honestly, but you get the idea. There's one other fun thing that the pencil tool has that we should look at before we move on to enabling different plugin parameters for automation. And that is that it's got these built-in shapes. So like a line is useful if you want to just draw a ramp. You can just click and pull, and there's our straight volume increase. The triangle, just to show you one of the other ones, if you click and drag to the right, that's how long the shape will last for. And if you drag up and down, that's how deep the shape will be. So if you do this, and then I'm pulling the mouse down, now we have triangles. The size of these triangles is determined by our grid setting at the top. So if I set this to 1/8 notes and make some real deep volume cuts like that, we're going to hear it turning up and down real fast. So you can get into some kind of cool rhythmic musical things using those shapes. I've seen some producers get real creative with it. I personally haven't used it very much. Let's put our grid back to whole node, or bar. Yeah, that makes sense. Actually, half node's fun. Okay, so that is how to automate the basic parameters of your track. Things like volume and panning, mutes. You should essentially never automate mutes because it causes confusion when you're editing. You should just edit out the parts that you want to be silent, or you can actually mute a section of a track by selecting it, breaking it by pressing B, and pressing Command M to mute it. See, that turns it gray, and that just won't play back now. Little sidebar there. Moving on. If you want to automate more stuff than those basic things, you have to enable whatever you want to automate. So I'm just going to load up a random plugin here. Let's... what's fun? Let's put on... what's something you all have? A compressor. Cool. Where the hell's my compressor? There it is. This is the standard compressor that comes with Pro Tools. It sounds perfectly good. And you'll notice that when you come down here to try to select something, it doesn't show the compressor. So what you have to do is in the plugin window itself, you'll see at the top it says auto. Auto is short for you can figure it out. And there's this little icon right below it that shows like two windows popping out and says plugin automation enable. You click that, and then you select the parameters that you would like to be automatable. So in this case, just to make it very obvious, I'm going to automate the bypass. And let's add the gain too. Oh, we can, okay. You can command click to select two. You can shift click to select a bunch. Click add, click OK. And now, when we come over to our left side here, you can see there's the compressor, and we have options for the bypass and the gain. So if we want to automate the gain, you're going to see things getting louder here. Right now, there's no makeup gain on this compressor. So it's going up. And you saw that little knob turn as that passed. The bypass, we could do the exact same kind of thing. Let's just grab it here. Now, some parameters you won't be able to like draw smooth ramps in. That's because they're either on or off. See, that just jumps up to on. So as this is playing, remember bypass on means effect off because you're bypassing it. So we can hit play here, and you can see on the left here that the effect turned itself off. It turned blue. One thing to watch out for if you're automating bypasses is every now and then there's a little pop sound. So I try not to automate bypasses if I can avoid it, or I put the changes, like I'll pull the volume fader all the way down on that track when the change happens. But yeah, that's just something to be aware of and to listen for when you're testing this stuff. Now, all those steps to automate something are kind of a hassle, so there is a way to avoid them in Pro Tools. And this middle section, this part's Pro Tools specific. So if we come up to Pro Tools at the top and go to Settings, it usually starts on your display options here. If you go over to your mixing options and check Plugin Controls Default to Auto Enabled, I think that's relatively self-explanatory, but let's check the box and let's add that same compressor plugin. Where are you? There. And now, if we just jump straight into the What Can We Automate menu, we have everything. Automatically, didn't have to change anything. So I would just leave that option checked and not worry about manually enabling individual parameters. That's what I do, and it makes your work a little quicker. All right, that's that for enabling parameters and manually writing automation. The next thing is, how do we actually perform automation? How do we record in our automation changes? And I'll give you a quick demo of that before we talk about the different ways to do it, which I will admit do get a little complicated, or if complicated is not the right word, they at least take a while to wrap your head around. So just a demo of what I'm talking about. I'm going to play this audio, and I'll pull down this fader, click on it and drag it, and then let go. And you're going to see the automation line draw itself as I do that. Cool, right? Now that is really useful. It's a little scary at first. I used to be like, oh my god, I'm going to ruin something. You can always press undo. And the difference I find by doing this by clicking and dragging or by using a MIDI controller is that you end up doing it by ear and things just sound better if instead of click and drag and listen and click and drag and listen until it's about right, you can just move this till it sounds right, then you're skipping like 20 passes. So the way we do that, the first thing in Pro Tools, and again, this is a Pro Tools specific one, is you have to pull up the Automation Enable window. And to do that, you go to Window and you click on Automation. You can also click Command 4 or Control 4 on a PC, and that's number pad 4, not the 4 at the top of your keyboard. That's what this little rectangle around it signifies. So we do that, and it brings up this window. This window, write enable basically means what automation am I recording. So if I were to deactivate all of these and try to do the same thing, nothing gets automated. See, the line just permanently moves. And remember, you can option click to reset a parameter. If I enable volume and do the same thing, it writes the automation. So I can save you a step here. Here's what you should enable. Volume, pan, plugin, send volume, and object bus. You could also enable send pan if you think you're going to use it. I like to have my sends just follow the panning of the track that they're on. But like I said earlier, you don't want to automate mutes. Once you've got this set up, and I usually just like leave it up here, then you can pick what mode you want to record your automation in. And there are a few of them. See here where it says auto touch on the channel strip, and it says touch on the left here? That's the same control. So read is what it will default to when your track is open, and all that means is read the automation line and play it back. You're not recording any automation when it's in read mode. Touch is what we were just on, and I think this is the most common thing people use. And what it does is when you are moving a parameter, it is recording. And when you let go, it brings it back to whatever the line was previously at. So watch, I've got my line here at 0. And remember, our faders are at 0 because that means they're not adding or taking away any volume. That's why it's minus below and positive above. For the most part, you should never push your faders up unless it's like an emergency. Always pull things out instead for proper gain staging. But anyway, that's off topic. Let's just watch touch again. And the thing to notice is I'll click and it'll start drawing. And when I let go, it'll go back to where it was. So that's really useful if like you want to bring up a section and, or like, you know, highlight a fancy vocal moment and then bring it back down to where it was. You do that and it's pretty easy. Also, you can just do multiple passes to get things right. So if I didn't love this and say, oh, I want to bring it down a little less and let go a little earlier, I can do that. And see, it actually jumped down there because it was following the line. So the let go a little earlier didn't exactly work, but I could also just like zoom in here a little and delete this bit. And there we go. So let's delete all that for the next demo, which is Latch. So below touch, we have Latch. And what Latch does is, again, it starts recording when you move a parameter, but when you let go, it stays where you let it go. You'll see what this means in a moment. Until you stop playback. And then it jumps straight back to where it was. So that's really useful for set it and forget it type stuff. You're like, oh, I want this whole section to have a delay on it, so you can like, well, let's pretend the track was here. You can like blast the delay and then go work on other stuff. And, you know, if you want it to last for the whole song, you just select these two nodes and delete them, and it carries it all the way to the end. One other little trick here, if rather than just deleting them, you would like it to ramp back down, if you select them and cut them, you don't have to paste them anywhere, but press X to cut, it draws a little ramp. Someone showed me that just pretty recently, and that's a very useful trick. All right, so undoing all of this, the third mode, and I think this is Pro Tools specific, I don't recall seeing it in any other DAWs, is Touch Latch. And what that does is it puts the fader into touch and everything else into latch. And I'm going to pull up the panning automation lane here so that we can see what that means. And what I'm going to do is pan this first phrase hard left, and then do some volume automation, and then pan this second phrase hard right, and do some more volume automation. So, started playing, pull this left, pull this down, and it goes back up, pull it up, and it goes back down, pull it right, do the same thing here. And see, this is nice because we don't have to change our, like, sonic settings while we're adjusting the volume in the mix. I actually do kind of like Touch Latch, but I usually just use Touch. The final automation mode and the end of this video is right. You should never use right. The reason you should never use right is that it overwrites every automated parameter. So, right here on my equalizer, I have this nice looking EQ curve. Let's bring up some of those parameters, like where are we? Fab filter, band 1, band 1 frequency, sure. That's going to be kind of hard to see. You might just want to. I'll just demonstrate this with the panning again, but just trust me that it's overriding literally everything. We say we are in right mode, and I have done this previous, and I kind of forgot about it, and I didn't want to automate anything. So we start playing, and I start messing with the fader again, and notice that the pan here is being written. So that means if I had something in the panning line, like for instance, if I had done something cool like this, it's gonna disappear. Just a quick example of that. We are in right mode, and look, it even turns itself off when you stop playing because it's so dangerous. Messing with the fader. Cool. Oh, but I lost my panning. So, I have yet to find a reason to use right mode. I'm sure there is one, because it wouldn't exist if there wasn't. Like, maybe you're recording in across your entire song, all of your settings, and you want them to never change. Okay, maybe use right for that. Otherwise, Touch, Latch are kind of your go-tos. The final thing to say is if you want to turn off the automation without losing it, you can click this suspend button in this window. So you'll see I've got a little volume dip written here, and if I have clicked suspend, it doesn't happen. And that's good for comparing automation versus not. Okay, that's everything I was going to talk about, and my dog now wants a walk. So have a good time playing with this. See ya!